Ready? Aim!
There's too many!
Anyone see my mammoth?
Stumpy! Hello! Hello. We are back. It's a Monday, right? We do the show on a Monday now. Yeah, it's a Monday. And we've got lots of news and things to share. This week I am joined, in case no one reads the descriptions, I'm joined by Kurt. Kurt, who has been on the show before. Melisandre, if you know him from the main Discord. Friend of Stats. And overall smug bastard. So we will be chatting up with him. We also have, but they are currently hidden. We also have two others joining us, but they are currently getting tacos. Now, this will all make sense in due course when they join us on stream. They are actually already here listening, so if I insult them too much, the first thing he'll do is come on and be like, whoa, don't do that. But yeah, they'll be joining us in a minute from their travels, and we'll get to hear from them as well. But yes, it's been a week. We of course have LVO to discuss, hence Kurt and my other mystery guests inclusions. And here they are. See, look, the video starts. They get rid of Kurt, obviously, because Kurt's less important.
I thought I was messing up somehow.
See, this is where, Kurt, I'm very clever. And what I do is I just do this, and you appear in the top corner. It's already planned, you see. But when it loads, I'll let it sort itself out. But we are actually joined by Andrew and Carl, Andrew L and Carl Kirsten, from LVO, who are, as I say, getting tacos and currently in the back of a car doing a 9-hour travel back. So they are going to be joining us, hopefully. I don't know why Andrew's video's not working. It's probably my fault. It usually is my fault, let's put it like that. But yeah, cool. First piece of news, in case people didn't know, we'll get onto LVO and everything like that in a second. But we have had a piece of news, which is CMON have been communicating with people through their support ticket system. People have been getting responses to rules queries. This is good. This is a good thing. Until you look at the queries that they have asked and the responses they have got. Those are bad things. They are just... They've blown open everything we know about the rules. Specifically, one was asked about sand diplomacy. Does it switch NCUs off at the claiming point, after the claiming point, anything like that? Turns out, apparently it's not simultaneous. It turns them off, and then immediately they don't do anything. So things like Pycelle, Melisandre would do nothing if they take a zone hit by sand diplomacy. The problem is that is not how simultaneous actions work. So the ruling we have from CMON, from their support pages, not the designers I would add, but the ruling we have from CMON literally countermands the rules in the rulebook, which is a problem. Hey, news! Don't we just love it when CMON start talking to us? I mean, I can't complain. They're responding to queries. That is a positive thing. The responses being good is a different issue.
Any news is good news.
Exactly. Any news is good news. All right then. So I don't know why we just did tests on this, and Andrew's video worked absolutely fine. And now, when I started streaming, it won't load. But Andrew can still hear us, I believe. I may be wrong.
Wishful thinking.
I know, right? But hopefully it'll sort itself out in a second. But Kurt, you obviously can. We will discuss it. Go on. What was your weekend like? How was your Sunday?
It was pretty amazing, yeah. A little tired. Yeah, I went to bed early, but yeah. It was a good day, Mickey. It was a good day.
Sunday was a good day. Cool. Did you do anything on Sunday that was of note? I don't think you did, right?
Sunday was flying back from LVO. We had an early morning flight,
Oof.
and getting back home, feeding my cats, and then the Chiefs game after that, which I know is relevant to this community. But
It is actually. Ironically, I know your fantasy league has been going quite well. You must be pretty stoked. People don't know Kurt is a massive Kansas City Chiefs fan, and they went away and won the AFC yesterday. So you must be a pretty happy guy.
yeah, very, very happy. Yeah.
Would you say that the Chiefs winning the AFC is the highlight of the weekend for you then?
Yeah. I mean, as much as I love my plastic crown from LVO, I think a Lombardi trophy, or the potential for a Lombardi trophy, is a little bit more exciting.
Of course, then I will ask. You attended LVO and came first place. So I think congratulations and applause and claps all around. That's it. No more. No. No. So while we wait, see if Andrew can re-establish the connection, should we? I'm going to ask you straight up. How was it for you? How was it for you? Day one, day two, traveling there, of course, the venues, everything like that. Just you start unloading at me and tell me what how you found it.
Well, I thought it was a great event. I had a great time last year, and Andrew and Carl, they do such great work. I wish they were here right now so they could expand upon everything that goes into such a big event. But it was incredibly well run. We didn't have very many issues figuring out pairings, as we've had at other events. Because certain software was used that makes things run very efficiently and is very convenient and helps run the event. Day one was 3 games. Day one, and each game was harder than the last. And then day 2 rolled around, and my final game, day 1, I tied and won on a tiebreaker. So I'm like, okay, I'm due for a loss. Like it's only been getting harder. And then I managed to win my match on day 4, which massive shout out to Stefan Stovetop. Told me about his match against Leica, so I kind of knew or had a good idea of what Leica was planning to do. So I was I was prepared for that, which I think gave me a nice edge. And then after winning that match, I was up against Rhett, R-H-E-T-T, in the finals, and he was running Mance. And I had the chance to kind of see what he was about in his match against Chris Tran, Bolton Skincare. And I was talking to Ilya before the final round, like, okay, what are the remaining game modes? What should I do? And so massive shout out to Ilya to kind of pointing out like what I should be looking out for there. And yeah, going undefeated, it felt pretty good.
Yeah, just pretty good. Just is that what you have to say? Just pretty good.
It felt pretty good. I wanna give a shout out to my finals opponent, Rhett. Relatively newer to the game, to my understanding, came over from the Warhammer community, which, to be fair, is where probably half of our crew in Kansas City came from Warhammer. So it's always great to see people immigrating from one game system coming to play Song. We're always hoping to grow the community. So I thought he did incredibly well, considering he was a newer player. To make it to the finals of a big event like that, I think the biggest event in North America to date.
Yeah, the biggest in-person North America event. I don't think there's even been a TTS event that's been bigger because I know there's been a couple of US only TTS events, but I don't think any of those have breached 39 that you had on the day. So yeah, the biggest US event there has been for A Song of Ice and Fire, which is funny because US is where people like Simon run the nationals and things like that, which hopefully should lead us straight into Andrew. Andrew, you have now been the TO for the biggest event in the US officially. How do you feel about
that? I feel great about that. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, it's all right. It's okay.
Okay, all right, yeah, so I feel really good to have the largest youth event for this game, and it also felt a bit high pressure as well, because if something goes wrong, then it will be more visible that something went wrong. So the players were happy with the event, particularly with a 5-round versus 6-round thing, right? That was something that was kind of changed at the end, but the goal was to establish one clear uncontested, undefeated winner, and reason to have a race that and people were getting tired of it. At the end of the day, many have travel plans as well. So I'm glad that in the aftermath, a couple of players said that that's exactly where they wanted it to end, and it worked out for them. And I'm glad that players get what they want, and I'm also glad that the results were not a byproduct of where the match is going, but rather a player won through player skill. And I think that's really a good turnout to see something like that happen.
Yeah, I'm definitely. Randall pointed out there. I think we've the connection at points there was pretty trippy. So I was able to understand everything, but it was pretty as Randall says, 1998. But yeah, definitely having the deciding game and having an undefeated winner, obviously very positive. That's great news. As you say, way better to have an undefeated player than having kind of like this mix of things of what goes on. And as you said there, like players understanding that you only played the 5 rounds instead of the 6, but that was more sensible given the scenario. I think it was great. And then yeah, mentioning about player skill as well, and that it was ultimately player skill that won the event here rather than just picking up a list. So yeah, I mean overall fantastic on that side. And it sounds like you enjoyed, even though it was difficult, you enjoyed being the TO for the event, and you were you happy with your outcome, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm also grateful that there were no drops between day 1 and day 2. So that happens with a lot of the multi-day events, is that when somebody sees that they can't become champion, they decided that they're done with the event, they walk out, and that's it for them. But none of that happened with this particular event, and I think that was great, and I'm very grateful for all the players who decided to hang it out until the very end.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was actually talking about drop-offs yesterday with some players in UK Discords, talking about cut-offs and the impact that cut-offs can have on like player numbers. But yeah, to not just run the largest song event in US history now, but to run it with 0 drop-off as well onto day 2, I think is fantastic. This is, very similar to what the LGT saw. Basically no drop-off in the LGT either from the players there. And this is, I don't want to say it's becoming a theme, but I think it is becoming a theme in Song that players aren't dropping out for day 2. People want to go along, play the whole event. Just because they aren't in with a shot of winning doesn't mean anything. And for me, that means that we're doing something right as a community, right? We're doing something right as a community, which I think is a really good step in the right direction. I see you're joined by Carl there, who is no doubt smashing back some tacos and generally enjoying himself. Just a word from yourself, Andrew. What is it? What was it like to work alongside Carl? Because we know he can be a pretty big pain in the ass.
It was a good experience, actually. He helped remind me a couple of things that overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
Things such as when it was a small table, we had tiles full of terrain we could have taken to load up all tables with terrain. But when the game has expanded to 60 players, we weren't able to support the terrain anymore. So he reminded me that players should bring terrain, and we established random versus player choice at the spot, simply because it was the prizes and expect to bring all the terrain. Have it be perfect, but you only use 2 pieces out of everything you brought on your flight.
Okay.
So especially that was something I did last minute.
Okay.
And sportsmanship scoring, we didn't really have that established at that last minute. I put something together. I used a very straightforward system, and I think it went well. Largely because he kept me organized.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, so talk about terrain, obviously. It's a big thing. Even just something dumb like reminding people to bring their own terrain is important. It is surprising if you don't remind people of that kind of what should be elementary stuff. Does get forgotten. And then talking about like the other support there that Carl offers. I mean, Carl's a great guy. It's great to see him in the community, and I very much enjoy seeing Carl's face appear and seeing his impact in a community as well, which I think is really important. I know that he, as well as yourself, Andrew, have been playing the game for many years now and trying to push it in new communities and things. So that's fantastic. All right then, back to you, Kurt. Right, you were there. You were present. You mentioned about playing against different opponents and things like that. What was your experience of the actual event itself in terms of like the venue and as a player, kind of like all the prep and things that went into that side of it? What did you experience kind of like from that side?
So the Las Vegas Open is it's a convention, much like Nationals at Gen Con is like a convention. So there's all this other stuff going.
I'm so glad.
simultaneously.
I'm so glad you didn't say Las Vegas Open is in Las Vegas. If you'd have said that,
I was like, is the convention actually called the Las Vegas Open, or is that the name of the tournament? We were in a hall with like a whole bunch of other game systems running their own tournaments. So I think all the Star Wars games, Legion, Armada, and X-Wing were in there. And then I think that also like Flames of War was in there and Bolt Action. But I know there were simultaneous or events running for Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, Kill Team in other halls in this convention center. I had a really good time last year, and so I went again this year. And the spaces, they provided us with all the space we could need. I know Carl and Andrew could probably expand more on this, but when the ticket sales increased from, I think, the initial 24 to like 60, and then the space initially increased us from like 24 to like 40, and then Carl's like, no, we need space for 60. But props to our hosts and the people running the convention for ensuring we had all the tables we needed and were provided for. And then I think there were free water bottles. I took so many free water bottles. You have to stay hydrated at these things.
Yeah, I mean, free water. I've gone through plenty in my own time in events. So yeah, cool, awesome. So then from like playing, obviously you spoke about your opponents briefly before. You're running double Stannis. Now, before anyone says, double commander, it is double commander, technically speaking, because it's the same guy, but in kind of like mental religious fanatic form and not religious fanatic form. Actually, no, it's King at the Wall. I've only just noticed. I thought it was not King at the Wall. I'm an idiot for reading your lists. In my head, I was like, that's OTK. I even forgot King. It's not even religious fanatic. It's semi-religious fanatic King at the Wall, right? This is after he's become religious fanatic.
Maybe sobered up a bit after the Blackwater.
Yeah, but not full on. Maybe like this isn't the best way for life. So yeah, I guess we'll talk about the thing we should talk about, which is your list pairing. What kind of allowed you to settle on these two lists? What was your decision making going into the event? And then what was your kind of like execution when it came to picking lists into your different matchups?
Mm-hmm. So my first list, which is the only list I ran the whole tournament, you'll notice is very similar to my old list that I've run. I ran before. I used to have 2 Lightbringers in there, and I think I used to have Davos instead of Patchface. So And I think I used to have like Varys in there instead of Melisandre. So I just made a couple adjustments as newer releases came out and gave us more options. When on a previous episode when we talked about the Baratheon Hero Box, I know Carlo was not high on Justin Massey attachment, but I said, you know what, I see some potential in that guy, and I'm going to see if I can't make him work. I'd like to think that I did, but maybe it won't work for everyone else as well as it worked for me. Who knows? I thought the Stormcrow, Justin Massey, I think they were like my MVP throughout the tournament. Melisandre's great just for global damage, and Patchface, he's hit or miss. I mean, who doesn't love playing Go Fish? If I was going to change anything about the list, I think I might have swapped Patchface out for Davos, because they can accomplish more or less the same thing on certain cards, like Shield the Guards the Realms of Men, or What Is Dead May Never Die, or Set for Charge, stuff like that.
That's interesting. Did you not find that Patchface was important in some of the matchups, or not?
I'd say he was, especially the final matchup. My opponent he opted not to discard his hand and keep drawing cards. The first round, I did not use a Patchface token because I blocked. I went first and I blocked Horse, so I was able to extend. I don't know, the lifespan of Patchface an extra round from 3 rounds to 4 rounds, effectively. And so my opponent was wary of Patchface and opted not to ever discard his cards and to just hold on to his starting hand, which turns out was not a great starting hand. Him not drawing cards was, in a sense, just as effective as me forcing him to discard his good cards, because either way he didn't have his good cards, right? So whether they were in his pile still yet to be drawn or in his discard pile didn't make much of a difference, because we were kind of playing this game of chicken, like who's going to blink first. So he had this kind of, I don't know if I like compare it to like Doran, like this kind of, whether or not he actually does something, he can affect things, kind of effect on the game. So I mean, I like him, but he was, he hit sometimes, he missed sometimes. He did okay.
Most non-committal answer. He did okay. He did fine. Fair enough. You mentioned there, obviously, in the final matchup, your opponent not keeping cards, discarding cards. I'll be super honest, I did start watching the game, but only very briefly. I went and did some other stuff. No offense, but I had other stuff to go and do, unfortunately, with the Famalam. But yeah, I did go back. It didn't come back, and I very quickly watched through it to see like the kind of like flow of the game, for want of a better term. And yeah, it definitely felt. It felt fairly good in terms of like your positioning and what you wanted to achieve out of the game. It's difficult, right? Maker, what I would say about Mance and the way I would play it. And I'm not going to sit here and just and say this is what they did wrong, X, Y, Z. There's no point in doing that. It doesn't achieve anything. But yeah. You capitalized on some early mistakes, I think. Your very aggressive positioning with Stannis is ultimately what won you the game, I think, and gave you a lot of pressure. And it's all stuff we've talked about before, right? In how you can control the flow of that game with Stannis and ultimately the Champions of the Stag, which effectively just die. They still just die, but it's about what they achieve within that time period. And you ended that game with Stannis dying, pretty much, but it didn't matter because your other 2 units, the 2 units which I personally would look at as a free vote player and try and target, they were virtually untouched. So outside of Melisandre touching them up all the time by burning them alive at the stakes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have to at least give you a shout out, Mickey, because back in the day, I was like, all right, everyone says Mance is a problem, and Mickey's the #1 free folk player in the world. So, Mickey, can you show me just what full skill Mance is capable of? And you obliged me and handed my ass to me on a silver platter. But I like to think that helped me a little bit in this matchup, just to know what to look out for. Knowing how to try to create pressure despite being out activated and not having the ability to create pressure that you might otherwise have if you out activate your opponent with the ability to, last end of round activation, first start around activation.
Mm-hmm.
Getting Stannis on the center was pretty key, like you said. And the fact that the Lightbringers and the Stormcrows were untouched allowed it freed up the option for me to use them as Melisandre fuel throughout the game.
Mm-hmm.
If they had been in a position of danger, I would have been forced to use more valuable units to fuel Melisandre, and that could have been a different thing. It's possible to say, I think if Rhett were here, he would say, yes, I had a mistake here, or maybe I would have done this differently. And same is true for me. I know I made plenty of mistakes in that game too.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, I did not take horses first to ensure that I could get Stannis on the center.
Mm-hmm.
That could have backfired if he had blocked center. I know the chariot play at the start came under a lot of scrutiny, but he was correct in deducing that I had Final Strike in my hand. So he was stuck between one hard decision or another, to go in and risk losing a chariot or backing off and hoping he could pass a Melisandre panic check. So it's always easier to be on the outskirts looking in and say, oh, that was a mistake. But when you're in there in the pressure of the moment, this is day 2 of an event. You've already played 4 matches. You're starting to get frazzled. I know I was. Normally I'm like very good at keeping my triggers in order, but I was definitely struggling in that 5th game. But regardless of mistakes that may or may not have been made in that 5th game, I still think that was a phenomenal accomplishment on my opponent's behalf to get to that position, to win 4 games, to beat a player that's as skilled as Chris Tran is. So I know I don't want to take anything away from him and say that, oh, well, just because he made a mistake, he didn't belong there. No, he earned the right to be there, and he didn't make it easy for me. I'll say that.
Which is what you want in a final game. We, as you can tell, guys, we've got Carl back on with us. Look, if people have never met Carl Kirsten, this is Carl. Surely, if you've never met, I've never met him, but if you've never seen his beautiful face, this is the infamous man himself. I have a couple of questions for you, Carl. Now that you're situated safely. I know Andrew obviously main TO for the event and everything like that, but yourself been a big member of the community on and off for the last couple of months, years, decades, what it feels like now. I just wanted to say, get your opinion on the event as a whole, and kind of like what has become almost like, I guess, a crowning moment for you, in terms of you growing the scene and getting to see it grow from humble beginnings in Cali through West Coast Bannerman through to LVO now. Let's see if he unmutes himself. Classic Carl.
How's the audio? How's the audio? Hello.
It's still a bit robot-y, but give it a try.
Yeah, well, the voice hasn't returned completely yet. And there's wonderful music here in the taco shop, so I think the event was amazing. I had a little post in the Sunday Slaughter chat about I'm just happy I didn't cry during the speech because
Wow.
at the end of the day, it's all about the players and people, and they're just amazing, you know. So you can say things about the game or whatever, but at the end of the day, spending that much time around people, you know, and realize all these different aspects of life and from all over the place. And it's just really heartwarming, and how we choose to spend our time, you know. So it was fantastic. As far as the community, I don't, you know, I guess I tried in the beginning to roll on with Simon, and then we're about to go. Okay. And then we moved, then I kind of settled into focusing on my local community. I would say I had a thank you card in our little swag thanks to the independent shop for gifting everyone 6 rulers, because everybody was like, they now have a system. But the thank you card printed out.
I think the internet's finally given the ghost. We will we'll catch up on that. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about there about getting like a thank you card, getting appreciation for the effort he's put in from, you know, various different people, and him ultimately talking about the community, which is, you know, what the whole purpose of this game is about. The whole purpose of the community is about that, predominantly first and foremost. So yeah, I think that's absolutely awesome. That's for me the biggest takeaway for Carl, and kind of like where he sits with it all. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Carl, while we might still have you?
Yeah. Yeah. We're about to get back in the car and get on the road. But, you know, I thank everybody at the event for showing up. It's quite an investment of many things to make it to something like LVO. So that everyone supporting streams, everyone supporting stats, couldn't have done it without those two. That type of event. All the prize support people, thank you so much. And Simon did come through, and Frontline will be sending prizes to people, so it's awesome. But I had a note though about Kurt's round 3 game with Josh White.
Mm-hmm.
I got to sit there because this top table by the streaming booth, so we tried to do that on purpose. And I got to sit there and watch a lot of it because there wasn't very many rules questions that round. And I haven't I haven't enjoyed watching a game that much in a long time. Kurt's probably one of the funniest people I've ever seen play the game. And the sportsmanship and just like it was fantastic. So a shout out to those two. Everyone, of course, but like that moment of that game was just like hilarity ensued, and super just, you know, and that happened all around. And that's another like overall note, I guess, is there was 0 issues of, hey, this player's being a dick, or hey, this player's fast playing or slow playing. Never happened, right? Not once.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just amazing, right? So as a TO, the wonderful community and players made our life easier. If you want to get technical, it was interesting though that like all of a sudden round 5, this is your last chance to stand it. There were probably those questions. The rest of the like everything got everything right. That's just the interesting note that I noticed. Well, I don't know. We're back in the car. So,
Cool. I'll let you get situated then. While the internet no doubt flickers on and off while you as you start up before it starts going again. But yeah, again, like talk about rules questions, like getting, you know, not having many, and he mentions there, Kurt, yourself, and Josh Waite, so Ross Bucket, as he is in chat. You know, what specifically about that game and that opponent then would you say was? I mean, obviously all your opponents were great, is the thing that I would say. You've already mentioned that, but what about that game in particular was just so special for you, I guess?
Well, yeah, big shout out to Josh Waite. He was a great opponent. And I think I don't know. We just hit it off, I guess. I'd make a reference and he'd continue it, and so we both kind of had that same kind of reference humor, and we were just having a good time playing. It was the end of the day, so maybe that factored into I can say, but no, I think it was just two guys who enjoyed the game, enjoying playing the game and having a good time doing so at a really well run event.
Which is ultimately what it's all about, isn't it? Is not just the players, but it's the event support there as well. And it's kind of like one of these things. The two working hand in hand is what makes a good event. And yeah, I mean, obviously fantastic. On that note,
it was his dreamy eyes, Mickey.
It was his dreamy eyes. I have to say that. Is that because he said it in chat? It's his dreamy eyes, wasn't it? So. Now that they're outside the taco shop, their connection should be infinitely better. You'll notice no lag whatsoever. So we've got Andrew back rather than Carl. We've got Carl.
He's still here.
He's still here.
He's being safe. He's putting on his seatbelt.
You managed to pick up a taco shop that had the most intermittent internet possible. I don't know how you managed that. But yeah. Yeah, the internet in the car is great.
Yeah, quick shout out to the taco stand. So this was recommended to us by a friend, and he says that it's the best taco place in all of Vegas. The place is actually called the Taco Stand, and it's a short drive away from the Rio.
Oh, there you go. Random shout out. Taco Stand, if you're watching, that'll be. We expect some royalties from that. Cool. Awesome. Now, obviously, one of the big things with LVO and America as a whole, right, is that it's a long way to anywhere from anywhere. Carl and Andrew, you were saying before, you've got a 9-hour drive back now, right?
Yes.
Kurt, you're already sat at home.
Yes.
Did you get a flight back by any chance?
Yes. I flew to and from.
Okay.
The drive across western Kansas would be very dull. There's not a lot out there.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask Andrew, Carl, and of course your driver as well. Did you genuinely choose to drive because you had lots of stuff to take, or were the flights not there, or did you really just fancy a road trip?
So there was a lot to take, but not because of ice and fire. So one of the other guys in the carpool, he's the TO for another event at LVO.
Oh, cool.
And we have plenty of terrain and other items to pack. And it was cheaper to split gas with all of us together rather than individually going separately.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I like Carl's money.
Plus great time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, plenty of great times on the road too.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
We all get to marinate in the car together for 9 hours and get used to each other's senses. I'm trying to say that.
Well, we had a good lunch stop on the way towards Vegas, right? There was the Moo Creamery in SoCal. That was a place that was pretty good as well.
Pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
They milk their own almonds. I didn't know almonds had nipples.
See, this is why I don't normally invite Carl. No, it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. Jesus, Bob says 30-hour drive from us. Wow, but a 30-hour drive to Las Vegas. Jesus, that is not something I would fancy doing. But yeah, no, awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome to see. Obviously, we don't get it on Tourney Ground that often. Mainly because if I've been at an event, I'm either at home already, so I can run the stream, or I'm not at home, so the stream doesn't go. So you never see me on the road. But it's great to see people on the road after events and things like that, or and getting that kind of like, what is, it's different if you've been at work all day and things like that. For you guys, it really is like it's just ended, and it really is like your first moments off the back of the tournament finishing. I'm going to ask a very simple question. Your answer may be complex. Are you glad you did it?
Yes, I am. I'm glad I did it. Yeah. The question is, am I glad that I did it?
Big nods.
And it's this is also the tickets selling out way back in October was also the start of a long-term connection between FLG and CMON, and that's going to be the pathway to Ice and Fire showing up to future FLG events. Last year, LVO was the only one. SoCal Open didn't have Ice and Fire, despite the fact that we have a group from SoCal who made their way out to LVO. And now there will be a SoCal Open Ice and Fire event, but not just that. There's going to be Bay Area Open in California, but then there's Cherokee Open in February coming up. There's the Lone Star Open coming up in March, and I believe there's an Atlantic City Open as well. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Anyway.
That's the kind of thing, though, isn't it? I mean, obviously, FLG doing their thing with CMON is one thing, but it's not about FLG doing their thing with CMON. It's about the players, getting the popularity for the game and being able to push that. FLG wouldn't want to do it if they didn't see a point.
Yeah.
So that's huge. That's absolutely huge.
Yeah. And one other thing too, one of the players, Red Standard, wanted to grow his community, and if LVO had not happened, if he had not shown up here, we'd have never had that conversation about what can we do to grow this community in other parts of the country, and get to the point where Ice and Fire gets as large as Warhammer at some point eventually. And like Kurt, I started out in Warhammer before I joined Ice and Fire, and I like Ice and Fire much more than I ever liked Warhammer. I still like Warhammer, but to me it's a very different type of game, and it's more about who you play with. And Ice and Fire, it's the community so far has been so great where I've never found it's just a situation where there's a particular opponent who created a bad experience for me. And I like to see that keep growing and do so while the community still grows to become larger as well.
More about Red and did you already link him up with Luke?
I've not linked up Red with Luke yet, but I did mention that Luke is running the Cherokee Open, and Red had previously mentioned that he wanted to reach out to Luke about helping to grow his own community. And so my suggestion was, hey, how about my thought was, I don't think I've fully vocalized this to Red yet, but my thought was, hey, if you're going to have somebody come in and help you grow your community, how about show up and join Cherokee Open and grow that particular event too? And you can get people from different places in the country coming together, and you can see that there's a bigger group involved, and we could grow this into something more than just one small game store.
There seems like to be a lot of large but hidden Ice and Fire communities in the States. Someone told me about a store, a vendor or something I was talking to, I can't remember exactly. They're like, oh, the Ice and Fire community is huge in, North Virginia or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, where are those guys? Like, let's all link up, So we gotta pull these guys out of their dens and get together for more big events because they're amazing.
I mean that's awesome. Yeah. I mean. Yeah.
A note on the Frontline series. Now that CMON is part of the Frontline series, because I didn't know this, and when they had posted this, I was like, "What is that?" They have like a challenge coin thing where you collect them and then get rewarded for doing so, right? So the more events you go to. And last year, I didn't know about it because there was no challenge coin. Well, it's because CMON wasn't part of their series.
Right.
So from now on, players will get challenge coins if they show up to FLG events. So that's cool.
Cool. I have no idea what that means, of course, but
yeah, it's kind of like it's a collector thing / you get rewarded for a little extra reward for doing so. Like for this particular one, you're in a raffle, a big raffle with lots of prizes, and then you got like a free shot glass or something like that. It's just a little extra something.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool. I think, we talked about it before. We talked about, long and hard, we talked about the impact of COVID and kind of like where COVID was and what kind of COVID created in terms of what was ultimately stagnation in community growth. We're in a position now, I think, where we've not been in this position before, certainly since COVID and since the birth of the international scene. We've not really seen a position where the US has finally connected itself together fully. And I really think that, for me, we saw LVO last year. We saw the appearance of nationals, more shops coming out of the woodwork saying, "Oh, we'll do a qualifier." People going to the nationals event, which by all stretch was a good start. But to me, this FLG series, and of course starting with LVO, that is the fire underneath the belly now, which can become big. You mentioned there about like reaching 40k levels. Kudos if you can get to that level. I personally don't foresee it in the near future.
Yeah.
But
It's like 1,000, I think, for champs.
Yeah.
But
Crazy.
But even just like and we compare the US, when we have always compared the US with European scene in terms of numbers. European density of players is just better in part. But even if if we're running these events, Cherokee into Atlantic, into SoCal, whatever the event ends up being on the FLG schedule, having these events being bigger, LVO, looking at potentially 60 plus, aiming for nearly 100 players next year, I think could be something that you guys aim for. Would be on spec with the growth that LGT had over those two weeks, over those 2 years. So I think this is the start. The way I see it, this is the start of what could well be the actual combination of the US scene really becoming its own thing and growing, which is ultimately down to hard work, like the three of you that put in, growing, running events, playing games, keeping scenes alive,
Yeah, one day I hope that we have an international scene too.
Yeah, definitely, like a stronger one. I know that we've got a European one going, but yeah, let's hope for a World Championships of some kind that isn't online, actual face-to-face, gaming. Because TTS is great and all, but let's put them on the table, man.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Put him on the table at Cherokee Open. I'm gonna keep saying it because
Yeah.
I want Luke to be successful. And just as you mentioned, Mickey, like it's like the next domino, the next in line. We got to keep it rolling, keep the community growing, coming out for events. So please check out Cherokee Open. I don't know his tags or anything, but ask Luke for more information. But we really want to see some good success there as well. So I hope it goes great for them.
if in case people who didn't know, they're talking about Lucas Aurelius, the guy who gives us all his lovely Targaryens, who I should probably bother him for, because he hasn't sent us any of his lovely alternative Targaryens for at least a couple of weeks now. So while I can sit here and say, Luke, come on, let's make Cherokee Open awesome, I can also sit here and say, Luke, come on, paint me some Targaryens to show off and ridicule. Yeah, Luke's a great guy, and we will be talking a lot about the Cherokee Open in the future as well. Kurt, you are, as it stands, the first frontline gaming season champion, for want of a better term, because I don't know what they actually officially call you. Are you going to attempt to make it to Cherokee Open?
Which city is Cherokee Open?
Cherokee, North Carolina.
Okay. Probably not. But I think there's the LSO, which is in Dallas, coming up. So I'm gonna try to get myself and several other guys from Kansas City to attend that one. I know Craig is throwing a tournament in Iowa, February 25th. So I'm gonna try to make it to that. And then Adepticon in Chicago, I'm gonna try to go to that one as well. So I try to keep getting communities from other states to work together to make these events bigger, whenever we can, help each other out.
Yeah, definitely. I obviously, the US is massive. You really don't appreciate how big the US is until you look at it. Cherokee Open, really hyped for that one. Really hyped to see Luke get some good numbers for Cherokee. In the hopes that he can. I don't know. Do we know what they're looking at initially as their numbers?
They have 48 tickets total.
I think there was 48 player count, and there's plenty of tickets to go grab up. So go get them.
Cool. So Yeah, I'm not gonna burst the LVO bubble here, and I don't want to make you sound a bit like mediocre here. But there's a chance that Luke might top your player numbers. Is that right? Is that what we're saying?
That's the hope.
There's a
Right?
chance. There is a chance. Yeah.
They won't top the tickets sold.
Fair
Because
enough.
for like a day they increased our tickets and one got sold or one or two. So
Yeah.
so we had 50 tickets sold, but only seats for 48.
Yeah. So, well, Duncan was issued a complimentary ticket, right? So he had 50, including Duncan. So 49 were sold,
Yeah.
which means more than we technically sold more than the 48 allotted to us.
That's the way to do it.
So
It's,
it's not possible.
Yeah.
it's what airlines do, right? Oversell, and then people don't turn up, and it's fine. And then if they do, you go, oh crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
awesome.
what happened was when I was told that Duncan is getting a free ticket, I said that I'll offer to buy one so that we'll keep an even number of players, so that we'll never have a buy type of situation. And either myself or Carl would put a game in with whoever has the no opponent set up.
Unfortunately, round 5.
Round 5, Stefan.
We were needed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Stefan ended up stepping out of the game so that he can focus on the top table stream. So there was a bye, but by then a bye no longer affected the standings of who's going to be champion or not.
Right. Okay.
And the person who received the bye was the only person who received a perfect sportsmanship score.
He got sportsmanship.
So he won sportsmanship, and we like to spread the awards around. So we gave the wooden spoon to someone else. So the bye prevented him from getting there, but he won sportsmanship.
It worked out really well.
Yeah.
That's a big rip.
Yeah.
You would have got wooden spoon, but you get a buy instead.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. I know that Duncan obviously didn't end up playing, right? Because he ended up doing so many other things. He was so busy.
He did play a game. He did play a game with Carl, but it wasn't added to the tournament statistics, as at that point he's had 3 buys, and we did not want to interfere with the pairings. And without him, we had an even number of players.
Yeah.
It was best to keep things going, but we wanted him to have a game as well. So Carl did bring out his Martells for a
Talk
game.
about the game if you want.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the game, Carl? First of all.
All right. 1 second.
No worries. So, Duncan
All right.
Rhodes, did you enjoy playing against him?
I did. Of course he did. I mean, gentleman and a scholar, extremely polite, and just really wanted to play a game, you know? So the first thing that happened was when I found out I was for sure going to do this, I put on my my skin colored Bolton cloak, fur mantle cloak, and I was looking for my Bolton tabard, and it was up in the hotel room. I was like, no. So I just put on my orange Martell tie, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. And I just stood next to him for a second, and he looks at me and kind of goes, I was like, you ready for this? And he was like, and so then I introduced myself and stuff, and it was hilarity, right? And then I let him know, you know, all I packed was just in case I needed to play was my Martell tournament list. And and he packed like his starter box stuff because Night's Watch, because it's so easy to travel with Night's Watch, and you know, so I was like, yeah, I feel bad that I brought my like stuff that I'd want to win with, you know, in a tournament. And he was excited. He was like, Martells? What is that? I was like, we don't have Martells over there. So we spent a minute with him just going through the scopes and looking at the models and me explaining like literally like what my plan was. Like I'm gonna try not to die, let Doran do his thing on the side, and this is how you can prevent him from getting tokens and that kind of thing. Then the funny part is while he's just trying to enjoy his game, of course, it was like playing against a celebrity, because all of a sudden here comes this lady, because Duncan's like, all right, time to relax and enjoy a game. Here comes this lady, Duncan Rhodes, let me ask you a question. And he's like, he just kind of looks at her like, what do you want? You know, like I'm trying to enjoy my game here, but not in a rude way, but you know, that's a funny way, because I'm sure like she was the interviewer the entire time, right? So he was kind of giving that little jest, and she's like, just a quick one, please. So it's, you know, that was 10 minutes later, right, after talking about ice and fire and stuff. And then, okay, finally she goes. Here comes the next guy, some sparkly guy with stickers, and then some people are just taking pictures of his models while we're trying to play a game, like in front of him. It was like, so eventually his videographer, I want to say is the correct term, media videographer shows up, and he just like stands next to Duncan like a bodyguard, you know. So Duncan introduces him. Oh, this is my friend. He'll be just watching the game. I was like, oh, that's fine. Like I get it. But the game itself was fun. Duncan, like I think it was the first morale test. He was like doing the math, and he was like, "Wait, is that right?" And so I explained how the morale test works. And he goes, "Oh, that's a Middle Earth strategy game. I'm sorry, you know." And he's like, "I don't think I've played since LGT." You know, so
he said exactly that last year. LGT.
Yeah.
He said the last time I played was at last LGT. So, he needs to.
So it made sense. He's like, I really love this game. I just don't get to play it often, you know. And so we went toe to toe, and I was kind of like, you know, should I let off the gas or no? And he was like, no, man, you know. So I got my Ramsey Blackguard Martell list, and I went and made my position, and he just wanted to roll dice. So he's charging Blackguard, and I was trying to let you might not want to do that, you know. Like this is.
Oh no, he wants to do that.
Yeah, this is what I want you to do, right? You know, so this the score doesn't matter. It was just fun, and then we played till I guess you could say time because he had to go do more interviews and stuff. But lots of laughs and just good times. I hope he had a good time. And I guess that's that. So some pictures. I think there's a frontline community group, might be the name of it, where the FLG photographer is doing pictures for our paint, pictures for that game with Duncan, just all types of, and that's where you can find like those high quality pictures. I think I posted a few from my phone where I was like, I gotta get one on my phone, dude. Like this is epic, you know. But I guess that's it. It was a great time. I'll never forget it. It was hilarious and super fun. So thank you, Duncan, for playing me. It was great.
It is a bit odd, you know, from our perspective, because obviously Duncan is based in the UK. We've had him at the LGT for a couple of years now, and don't get me wrong, absolute, you know, legendary painter and all-round nice guy from when we've met him. But the reason I say it is a bit strange is because at LGT you don't get that same level of like he obviously people know who he is, but it's also kind of like, oh, it's Duncan. And you just move on with, you know what I mean? You just move on with the day. Whereas I guess in America, it's almost like, oh my God.
I guess so. And we were kind of warned, and I guess we might have chose the wrong table to play this game at, because like it was like you could see like instead of using the corner tucked in table would probably been a smarter idea. So somebody walking through our hall could go, oh, look at that, there's Duncan, you know. So that was probably our bad on that one, but I hope he had fun.
He almost certainly did. He's
the front
internet outage.
Internet, okay.
No, he's all right now. It's all right now.
But yeah, no, we were warned we were warned that he's gonna have some attention, so to be wary of that. So, and it was funny. I talked to him about like, you know, someone goes, "Where's your hunters, man?" You know, like some of the players were finishing their round and they're looking like, of course they look at the table and they're like, what, you know, where's your hunters and stuff like that. And Duncan's like, there's no way I can get away with not having a single painted model. So I have to bring my army list, because as you've seen, there's been 50 pictures as I've been playing this game already. So, you know, gotta have all painted.
Maybe that's his secret. Maybe if he only took unpainted models, no one would care. Have we solved Duncan's problem? Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, tuck him in the corner, unpainted models. People will walk by like, no, that's not him. That's not. Yeah, look at all that bare plastic. That can't be Duncan Rhodes. Yeah. So, some people just need a fake moustache. Duncan Rhodes just needs an unpainted army.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. No, awesome stuff. Obviously, I will link to all of the photos when they get put up of not just the event as a whole, but all of the ones from A Song of Ice and Fire, including Best Painted and things like that. I'm sure there'll be plenty of photos from those coming up in the next kind of days,
A lot.
once people are home and posting them and things like that. Overall, though, pretty happy with the event, pretty happy with the attendance. If you had to change anything, Carl, what would you change? Convenient time for you to
dang.
No, there we go.
Yeah. Haven't had much time to think about that yet, but I guess there was one thing, which was I was planning on doing something epic for this LVO, and I didn't finish it. / there was no way to bring it,
Okay.
and I kind of wish that it was there. And that was a put together when you want life-size Iron Throne made of a chair and cardboard swords and stuff like that, and that was in process. And once it was like, there's no way to get it there anyways, I stopped working on it. But that'd be cool. And there's YouTubes out there, like it's not really that difficult if you just have an old chair, So that'd be cool to see. And I wish that would have happened. But I don't know, done differently. I guess
might be nothing.
Well, I guess what I tried to do was detach myself after last year from TOing so much or caring about so much about certain things just for my own personal mental health / life, right? So I've done this a lot and for years in a row. So I'm like, I need to detach a little bit. And as soon as it was like this event's getting big, I got sucked right back in and decided to assist / TO again under Andrew. And I guess what I would have done differently was just not done that and played instead.
That's fair enough.
I hope I helped and I had a use, and that it wasn't a wasted effort, I guess you could say, because Andrew was the man with the plan. He had the contacts and all that official stuff, and I was just trying to spread the word. So on that note of same question, I'll just pass this back over.
Yeah, definitely.
Andrew can talk.
Yeah. And then you better start thinking, Kurt, because you're going to have to answer this one from a non-TO perspective. And, it's going to be hard.
Can you repeat this question for a second?
Yeah, no worries, Andrew. As a TO, you've done LVO, obviously gone great, everything like that. If you were doing it again, I'm not suggesting you're doing it next week, by the way. But if you were to do it next week, what kind of things would you do differently? Is there anything that you would do differently next time?
I'll try to be more timely with certain announcements, I want to say. Things like the aspects of bringing your terrain, how sportsmanship would get scored, how the different awards would get would be scored. If I could get all that up in advance, people could potentially build their list and plan for that. I also wish that I could have gotten a better sense of when the product releases were, so that I can determine which units were street legal and which units still were not. And that would have helped a lot with list building and list locking, so that people can look at the list and start speculating or planning out their strategies before the event began.
Okay. Awesome. No, that's a good way of thinking about it. I like that. Especially, dumb things, and it is a dumb thing, like announcements just either during the event itself or pre-event, is always just something that I think people sometimes forget. It's interesting, Russ Bucket there, Josh says a bigger microphone because those darn Legion players are so loud. Trust me, I wasn't running the LGT, haven't run the LGT either year, but one of the biggest pieces of feedback they got both times, have a microphone or a speaker system. Yeah, it always gets brought up as a piece of feedback from players. So Kurt, I don't know why I said Carl. Screw Carl. We don't need
Kurt.
No, I just want to see his face. Look, there's his face. Kurt, from your perspective as a player, is there anything you would do differently if you were attending the event as a player, or just as a helpful piece of feedback for these guys, is there anything that you would have liked different or changed?
Yeah, huge, gigantic criticism for Carl and Edward. They'll never let it down. We had to get our sheets written out, and there was a FedEx situation where a bunch of us had to go email our list to get them printed, and apparently we're all boomers and we really struggled with that. So I guess blank army list sheets for people to just fill out by hand would be nice, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't think we even ever used them, so it was a whole lot of.
A couple of players had technical glitches, so they had to use the physical list for getting the games rolling.
Yeah, I did see. I saw them used on Bolton Skincare stream a couple of times, where they were just sharing lists that way, because it is, if they're there, it is actually faster for a lot of people, I think. Yeah, cool, absolutely fair. And was there anything you do yourself, Kurt? As a player, would you do anything differently?
Well, I did not bring my terrain. I was I was the bad egg. But luckily all my opponents brought terrain, so huge shout out to my opponents for all coming prepared.
Fair.
Bring your terrain.
Bring your terrain. That is Carl, look at the disappointment on Carl's face now, and the disappointment on Andrew's face. Didn't bring goddamn terrain. Disappointed. They put time and effort into that announcement. So that's fantastic. Honestly, it's fantastic. Well, I do appreciate you all being on the call. I do appreciate you all joining me today, talking about the event as a whole. Was there anything across the whole event that any of you guys wanna point out, discuss, throw open? Just anything you guys feel that hasn't been said already regarding the whole weekend as a whole, or anything else? Nope.
Immediately after the event, or I guess a couple hours after the event finished, we all went to, or a good number of us went to Margaritaville, because Carl said I got to decide where the after party was. So I said I want some Jimmy Buffett and some margaritas. So we had a pretty good time out there.
That's good. I know I saw quite a few pictures of you guys sharing, just literally spending time with each other, rather than not necessarily playing games and stuff. But yeah, Andrew, from yourself, anything else you wanna mention?
Simon gave close to 70 boxes as prize support.
Nice.
And there's a starter for each faction, about 3 or 4 starters for Martells, and
amazing.
Unit boxes and Heroes boxes for the other factions. So it's the largest instance of prize support that we've previously seen at US events, possibly aside from Nationals. Which unfortunately I was unable to attend, so I don't know what the prize supposed to look like for that event.
There's a long story behind that one.
Gen Con itself had its own entry, right? And then after that, there's Nationals for a separate entry, so it was hard to justify going to Gen Con and then coming up with the travel cost and the hotel cost and all of that. So that was a bit of a challenge in getting there. But this year, even if I don't place, I would love to go to Gen Con just to see it and just to be able to spectate. I think it will be a fun event.
Awesome, yeah. I'm somewhat looking forward. Maybe my hype is misplaced. I don't know, but I'm really looking forward to the rest of the US kind of scene the rest of this year, and seeing what kind of events kind of crop up and how they will run. Thank you very much from all three of you from attending today. I got a question in chat just quickly. Seth says, "What does TP, SP, and UD breakdown mean?" For Seth, that's tournament points, secondary points, and unit destroyed points. TPs, you get 3 for a win, 1 for a loss, and 2 for a draw, but draws don't happen very often. 0 if you resign. Don't resign your games. Secondary points, you get 4 for a crushing win, that's if you win by 5 or more points, and you get 0 for a crushing loss, losing by 5 or more, or a wipe. 3 points secondary if you beat your opponent by 3 or 4 victory points, or lose by 3 or 4 victory points, you get 1. And you get 2 if the game was a narrow victory, narrow defeat, so that's winning or losing a game within 2 victory points, would give you 2 2 SPs each, and unit destroy points is the number of points you kill from your opponent. Cool. Bob saying, sounds like Nationals from Simon not having. Yeah, so I know that this cropped up, and it is unfortunate, right? The Simon booth didn't go ahead, so Simon weren't actually present at the event because unfortunately Adam Lavelle, in case people didn't know, I think he'd had a death in the family just prior to the event, so he couldn't show up, and as a result, Simon just weren't there. That kind of sucks. Would have been nice for them to see that, I think. I don't know if there's any comments need to be made on that. Really, it just is just not what we would like to see, but understandable.
Yeah, but it's important for him to be with his family. Yeah, that's more important to him.
Yeah,
more important for us to let him have that too.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%. Like Adam not being there is completely understandable. It's just a shame that Simon didn't have anyone else like as a stand-in just in case.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
FLG did sell some Simon products, so if everybody wanted to buy something, they were able to find merchandise there.
I don't think there's many starter boxes left either. There's
a
couple remaining.
Yeah, I grabbed the Stark starter set so I can potentially run demo games for any newcomers that drop by. I did notice there were a couple of Night's Watch starter boxes there as well, but there weren't any of the Martell starter boxes there. So for anybody who wants to grab one, because their local stores didn't carry them, that wasn't really an option.
Well,
okay.
That's true. Yeah.
They might have already been gone. Yeah. Well, I mean, that is interesting. I mean, it is interesting that they basically didn't have much stock left, which means that they probably sold some stuff during the event, which is a good thing. You know, some of it to be current players, but maybe it'll be to other players going to LVO, seeing the games and things like that, picking up starters to take it home and try it in their local communities. Which, hey, you know, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Yesterday somebody dropped by. Yesterday somebody dropped by. I talked to Jesse L and myself. And Jesse pointed them to the merchandise hall as the place to go to if they wanted to pick up something. So maybe we have converted another newcomer to the game in the process.
That's what it's about. It's about that growth, you know. But yeah, no, absolutely awesome event as a whole, and really glad that it went ahead. Well, yeah, we'll finish talk about LVO there. Obviously, you just re-mentioned Frontline Gaming's next one in the series is the Cherokee Open, run by none other than Luke Hartman, aka Lucas Aurelius. Do check out with the Frontline Gaming stuff. Luke will be definitely posting about it soon, getting people hyped for Cherokee Open, which is the next one in the Frontline Gaming series. Also check out, and I'm sure that Carly will do an article based on LVO for Frontline Gaming website himself. I'm sure Carly will put together some information, if not one of the other guys from Frontline Gaming, on A Song of Ice and Fire. I really hope there's some content from them coming out soon, and if there is, obviously we'll direct you that way. But yeah.
I also have one more note for you, Mick.
Oh, go on then, Carl.
Well, if Lee Teddy's around, if I remember correctly, he'd be very interested in my shout out to Patrick Stiles, God's Grief on Stats, for doing our amazing certificates. They're very beautiful.
Yes. Chris, Elite Teddy does love a certificate. I am sure when he watches this that he will be absolutely over the moon that quality certificates were made. Yeah, where would Chris be without a certificate? You know. But yes, absolutely fantastic. Kurt, any final words on yourself from LVO before we move on?
Oh, there was one thing I forgot to mention earlier when talking about my match with Josh Waite. As we were going through our deployment, something was mentioned about deploying to the side, and Josh said, "An angry British man on the internet told me not to deploy on the side or have a sad solo rider." So I think that started us off on the right foot.
Oh dear God.
Yeah.
Well, I do appreciate that, Josh. I know that he does watch quite a lot of the episodes live, and I know he's been here today. So, oh God, you know when people in America start listening to you, you've got a problem, and I'm that problem. So no, awesome, absolutely awesome. Well, we are going to talk about another event, and just very quickly because he's not here to speak about himself today because I know he had you guys coming on. I couldn't invite him as well. It would have been a mess, and my internet definitely wouldn't have held up. But we also had this weekend the big Spanish team event run. Now, the big Spanish team event, it ended up getting that 64-player limit, which was 16 full teams, which is fantastic. Gotta be very happy with that. And what I was surprised by is Mikel was saying that they had a lot of relatively new players to the game present at the team tournament, which again is, absolutely fantastic. First of all, obviously we talk about growth, we talk about community increasing, everything like that. But more than just that, it was also just people enjoying the game. And Mikel said, for the people that attended, it made a massive difference being able to run a team tournament that was a mix-up from the meta. We haven't seen any big US events, really, that have conformed with meta, that been meta games, so it made sense for the US to have LVO. It is a big event on the calendar, it's a really important one. But in Europe, of course, we had all our nationals at the back end of last year. The meta, the current game state, if you will, is... I think a lot of people feel exhausted by it. But a team event here, and it ran apparently very well, fantastically well, and it was won by Templo War Games, which included Miguel Lafuente. Did say that they might be a team to watch out for. They did end up winning it, which is fantastic. A real mix of factions, different factions being spread across the different teams and everything like that. And Mikel sent me some pictures as well to show people while he's in. So these are just people playing the game. Nothing special like that. But it's great to see things like, fully painted miniatures on the board. A lot of people there, even newer players, still had fully painted armies, and were repping all kinds of stuff from Golden Company all the way through to, Baratheons and Greyjoys, which is great to see. Absolutely fantastic to see. So that was the big takeaway from Mikel there, and I'll take you through some of the stuff. So this is Templo Wargame, which we see here with Lafuente is the guy on the far left, so the name to the face, for those of you who don't know who he is. He's one of the he won Spanish Nationals last year, and how that kind of all played out, and that was the team he won the team tournament with. So that was the winners. The Wooden Spoon team were these four absolute legends from Cavalas de Studio. I probably butchered the pronunciation there, but they look absolutely overwhelmed with their wooden spoons. I mean, look how happy they look. Who can complain when someone's that happy? Gotta love it. So we also have up next two people that I know very well. These two legends here. This is Decipher and Chablou from the French team, coming from La Barre TO, who are the only internationals to attend the event. But fantastic, getting a Greyjoy starter as well. I know some of them had to nip off early, hence the reason not all four of them were there. And then we couldn't go a week without showing you these sexy guys here. The TO team, that's Mikel and Markabel, who's the guy sat down, plus some of the other TOs that were present as well. I'm not going to lie, I thought, Kurt always says that I've got a sexy beard. He's a liar. I shaved it off. But no offense to Carl and Andrew over in the US as well. But Mikel really is sexy guy numero uno. That's the TO team that they're working there. And this is their prize support that they had, which was fantastic, put together from local stores and other things and other sponsors for the event. Lots of opportunity, and it worked really well with a lot of new players, people wanting new stock for that as well. The playing hall itself does indeed look like a wedding venue. And it was basically semi-outdoors, semi-not permanent. And you'll notice if you look very carefully, I say very carefully, if you look at this picture, Kurt, Andrew, do you notice that all of the players are wearing something?
Jackets. They're all cold.
It was freezing cold. Apparently, it was absolutely freezing, and it was like playing outdoors for them. But they really enjoyed the event, and what they said was actually the best is, you see here is teams captains. They could go up with a team captain and one player from the team, for the team like organizing who was going to play who on what team and doing the matchups. And they said it worked really well, and everyone was pretty kind of happy with the whole process. So, certainly for yourself, Andrew, as a TO, if you're looking to run team tournaments or anything like that, maybe there's some key things there from Mikel over in Spain that you might be able to pick up and use, because he said it went really, really well as a whole. So maybe he's...
I'll be interested to learn. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, that was the Spanish team tournament. I will give a very, very quick shout out, and this is going to be quick because there are 8 players who went undefeated over the 4 games, over their 4 matchups. So we had George Perry, Mamascuan, Sergio Galaro, Grank Haldrago. I really can't pronounce these. I should not have chosen to do this. Juan Manuel, Juan Man 90, Corentin, Decipher, Miguel Lafuente, Gabriel Gabby Mercier, and Aaron Cifuentes, who is Mr. One, another strong player up at the top of the standings in stats. So yeah, all undefeated to those 8 players, 3 of them from Templo Wargames, hence their absolutely dominant showing at the event. And yeah, overall, very good event. Other comments made by Mikel, he was really glad. Everyone really liked the tournament format. It felt like a lot of fresh air, and for a lot of new players, this was a real blast for them to enjoy the game. And exactly what you said, Andrew, before as well. He TO'd the event. Mikel was TOing, and he said it was hard, but it was well worth it. Well worth that payout. So yeah, overall, I would say it has been a very, very, very good weekend for A Song of Ice and Fire. LVO and Spanish team tournament were by no means the only events. If I remember rightly, and someone can go back, probably Dwan, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I said there were 21 events happening over this last week. And that's just fantastic for A Song of Ice and Fire across the board in general. I don't really have anything to say there apart from well done to Andrew, to Carl, to Mikel, to all the other TOs across the country, across the world, running events, and generally having a good time with it. I know there was a big event in Northampton as well this weekend. I think it was. With a big event there. I have to double check if that was this weekend or last. I can't remember actually. But yeah, it's absolutely massive. I think it's fantastic, and for what seems, like a very odd place for me, where I look at the tournament scene, and I think a lot of players look at it as kind of like it's now the same meta. We need some shake up. This, that, and the other. People are crying out for a patch. I think the big thing for me is that this time last year we were crying out for a patch, and we saw, a decline in player numbers. I think is fair to say. This year we're crying out for a patch competitively, but everybody is going out there playing games still. There's still just as much excitement to play as there ever has been, and yet we're in technically no different a time than we were last year. So yeah,
I think live games helped. I think last year we were in a weird place where we're not fully out of COVID restrictions here in the States. And also we probably have just more new players in general compared to before. So for those newer players, the game hasn't gone stale for them just yet. And Martel's getting a new release, so now a new faction on the block. And on top of that, another thought I have too is that if we keep playing, if we keep feeding good stats to CMON, and if they were to pick up on it somehow, that would probably help them factor in what needs to be in the patch. So I know some people are thinking like, hey, Cherokee Open is going to happen before the patch, maybe sitting around and waiting until the patch. Well, participating in Cherokee Open, getting games in, will probably help them decide how the patch should look. So that's a thought to take as well.
Yeah, I will agree with that. That's more about continuing this awesome domino community building effect and just showing up and supporting the event bring something wacky, like just have fun. And I really hope that people just support it for the long-term effect of what that does, rather than worrying about the meta and possibly facing something that you don't really like to play against.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just noticed, because I do scan for news and updates and things like that, I've just noticed on the A Song of Ice and Fire Tabletop Miniatures game page, with the official CMON page for it, they 2 hours ago posted, "Many thanks to everyone who joined the Las Vegas Open Tournament this weekend, and congratulations to all participants. If you missed it, you can check out live coverage made by Sunday Slaughter Gaming." If people didn't know, Sunday did record games. Chris did record a lot of the games. I'll drop a link in chat for those of you who don't know about Sunday Slaughter. If you don't know about Sunday Slaughter, I would also ask you to move out from underneath your rock, because his content is by far the best content for A Song of Ice and Fire you can find on the internet. Yeah, much better than the garbage I make.
Shout out to Sunday Slaughter. Nice. Awesome. Sorry.
Yeah. And speaking of Sunday Slaughter and Chris and the meta, right? He ran Greyjoys, which are currently third from the bottom in terms of stats. And you would not think that in the faction ranked that low would be a meta faction, and yet he had a pretty decent showing for himself throughout the event.
He did a great job.
He did. Absolutely epic. And his game against Rhett actually came down to what was, and if he ever watches this back, he'll hate me for this, what was a very much like almost last activation of the game misplay from Chris. And if he doesn't know that, he needed a lot of things to go his way for it to go well, but one of the things that he needed to go away did go his way. So there was one other thing he might have been able to do, and that might have been enough to seal a win for him. So the fact that it came down to basically the last round of the game, it is that is a massive statement in itself, in Chris's favor. So yeah, cool, awesome.
I'll also make a note on that. I'm not. I can barely hear, but last I heard, we were talking about Chris's performance, and I mentioned it in the Discord a little bit with this type of event. It's interesting how like your strategy going in gaming is one thing. Your strategy going in when you're not gaming is also very important for something like Vegas. So you gotta take that into account when you're trying to perform at a certain level. And what you do after day one before day two.
The roulette of options that are available and how badly it can go. I'll finish our shout out to Sunday Slaughter with another thing, which is he's hit his 3K subscriber mark over the weekend as well. So massive mark for him, 3,000 subscribers. I think we're at like 1,200 or something like that, way less than that. But no, massive kudos to Chris and the quality content he makes, and the all-round nice guy that Chris is. So massive shout out there. All right then, we'll start wrapping things up for today. So I know that Kurt may be on again soon, but we'll talk about it in a second because well, I'm going to surprise Kurt with it, but he knows already, I'm sure. So just as a run-up, we've got starting what looks like to be a league in Poland, in Gdansk, a 64-player league potentially, starting up in Gdansk, so we'll follow that potentially along. We've got an event happening in Madrid, just a 12-player small one happening on Friday this week. We've got an event happening in Providence Warwick. Captain Con, yes, of course, Captain Con is this weekend. How did I nearly forget? Willie sent me a message just before the thing. Captain Con has got 1 spot open left for Sunday, 6 for the Saturday, and the Friday event has still got quite a few tickets available. So if for the 30-point Friday event, there's still quite a lot of options there. Do sign yourself up. The Saturday event, the Not Today, has got about 6 spots left. So if you want to sign up there for the Not Today event on the Saturday, get yourself involved there. But the Sunday, the Fear Cup's Deeper Than a Sword, has only got 1 ticket left. So if you want to sign up for that event, go grab it before it goes. So that's the Captain Con event this weekend that's running. We've also got the Overclocked event happening in Fritzlar in Germany. really looking forward to that. That's one of Lockerbie's overclocked events that he runs, so really looking forward to that. We've got an event happening in Katowice in Poland. Fantastic, Poland doing their absolute work all over again. A small Quartermasters at War 6-player event in the Netherlands in Zeist. We've got an event happening in Spain in Fuengirola. I've butchered that. That's not how you pronounce that. Don't kill me, Mikkel. We've got an event happening in Greece. No Middle Ground tournament happening in Greece this weekend as well. An event happening in Belgium on the Sunday. 20 players there. Captain Con. And an event that I have no idea. I'm guessing it's Spanish though because of the name. All this weekend. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 events starting this weekend. I'm counting 10 because Captain Con is kind of like 1, even though it's split into 3. But yeah, massive. Really hope that those go really well. Kurt, you're probably going to be rejoining me on another episode soon. Not necessarily an episode, but some other stuff planned, because we are going to talk about some Baratheons at some point, and certainly your favourite thing, which is Baratheon list building, right? So we're gonna talk about that at some point in the future, guys. So stay tuned for that. People have been requesting that I do after I thought last week was just me rambling for 2 hours about deployment, but people have been requesting that I talk about terrain. So there is an episode on terrain that we talked about, like how good terrain is and what it is, but I guess I'll talk about terrain with you guys. And I've got an idea of who I wanna get involved with on that particular topic, because that'll be hilarious. And Andrew, have you got any requests for stuff that you want me to do episodes on, or any content that you want doing in the near future?
I think the content you've done so far is great. I don't really have any specific requests in mind that I can think of.
Cool. Well, seeing as you've been on the show now, you know, you can request things. That's how it works. You know, and I do listen to you now.
Yeah, I have a couple.
Oh God.
Hairstyling tips from Mickey, and maybe some ultimate frisbee lessons from Carlo. Be nice.
I can get on board with that.
No, but I saw that you just did the future events, and I was asked by, I want to say, Daniel. I'm one of the worst with names, but I know his face very well. I was asked by Daniel to shout out the Lone Wolf GT has been an event that has done many events in the past, and they're going to have Ice and Fire this year. That's also in Texas. I'm not sure exactly where. But the Lone Wolf GT is coming up. It's on stats. So a little shout out to it for a future event there.
Awesome, yeah. Lone Wolf GT happening in April, later April, in Fort Worth, Texas. Awesome. Tell me how I do change how it's. Tell me how I changed last stand. Oh, Luke. Here we stand is I would change it so much. Matthew says faction breakdowns and how-tos. Yeah, those are kind of like on the back burner a little bit, Matthew. Got some stuff kind of planned with some ideas around it, but ultimately, because we know, or we are expecting a patch in March at this point, as all of the signs and what Adam Lavelle, among other people, has been saying, that March is when the patch, that Simon think is when the patch is going to drop. We are kind of holding off on those, because if the new patch drops, then the how-tos are going to be out of date like straight away. But I have got some stuff in terms of list building that, you know, is something to kind of tide us over. Samuel Lima saying that there is an event in Richmond, Virginia coming up as well. Fantastic. Do let us know how that one goes, Sam. Hopefully it goes really well. And yeah, cool. In which case,
I thought of one.
Oh.
On the topic of what we've been talking about the entire episode today, and perhaps maybe do a deep dive of helping others understand what it takes to connect communities or run events, because there's so much interest right now. It's growing. We have this opportunity and we should seize it and let people know, like, this is how you do it. keep the ball rolling.
Mhm.
So maybe an episode on that in some form. You might have already done one in the past. I'm not sure, but
I'll have
that
to
might
go
be
back.
good timing.
I'll have to go back and look in the archives for you on that one, Carl. But yeah, definitely something I can look into doing. And Kurt, I'll end with you. Is there anything you want to see me warble on about so you can complain and say I'm wrong?
I'm definitely looking forward to the faction breakdowns for all the different factions. I know I'm gonna lend help where I can on Baratheons, but I'm definitely looking forwards to seeing who your other guests are for each of your other factions, and I'm looking forwards to those. If you want to talk about like new design spaces, I think that's an area that interests a lot of my local guys, and I think the community at large might like to hear your thoughts on, in terms of whether that be alternate wind conditions or additional design spaces for factions, like extra tactic zones, stuff like that, or different game modes that different terrain type, how you might implement stuff like that. I think there's a lot there that's still kind of gets glossed over maybe in the daily conversations on the Discords, that it remains untapped.
Wow. Okay. I have a new design space for you. I call it an NCU that grants victory points. That's totally what people want to see. No, absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much all for joining me, and thank you all for watching. I know that there was some audio technical issues. Evan loves to point it out because he is an audiophile, and he's going to pull me up on it. Yes, Kurt.
Can I make a proclamation?
Okay.
I was very happy to finally see a Baratheon 1 major event. And in terms of like the meta as a whole, like I know Luke pulled it off with Starks. So everyone out there that just play what you want to play and make it your own. I tried to give this message on the Sunday Slaughter stream, but I know the mic was very loud. There was a lot of background noise. So I encourage people to play the characters you enjoy from the show or the books, make it your own. And I want to anoint Davos of Katarina as Hand of the King. In future debates on Discord, he speaks with the King's voice. And thank you, everyone, for the messages of support after going into finals and after the final match. I had congratulation messages from so many people from this community, and I want to thank everyone for that.
Cool.
We're doing
Awesome.
final shout outs.
Yep.
So,
I can't hear.
yes, Carl, Andrew, is there anyone else you want to shout out before we finish off the episode?
Yes, I'd like to thank Marwin for using his black candle and influencing the top table for a lore accurate final top table. That was wonderful.
I'd be so glad if Marwin picks that up. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Andrew, any from yourself?
Shout out to Chris and Stefan for streaming the games, and also they hope to get the table set up when there was a misunderstanding as to how many players we really had, and we needed two more rows of tables to facilitate the players.
Chris and Stefan were just all stars all weekend. So thanks, guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining me, and thank you guys for watching and joining me again. This is another episode of Tourney Ground signing off, and I will see you all. Best of luck in your games this week. I will catch you all next Monday, probably. Yeah.
Carlo,
Have a good one.
where's Carlo? Thank you, Carlo, for the amazing site.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carlo. That's what we should end on today. Thank you, Carlo. And long live Melisandre! Long live the king! Catch you later, guys.
Ready? Aim!
There's too many!
Anyone see my mammoth?
Stubby!